But speaking of Elon Musk, though, I wanted to get into him a little bit more.
Right.
Um, I hate to do this because it seems like everyone is getting into him these days,
Mhm.
but he did go on Ted Cruz's new podcast. So, there's other members of Congress making their rounds in the space, and they had a conversation. And
Mhm.
as much as I don't want to talk about what was said on the show, we got to talk about this thread here. When they're listening to this, they're talking about DOGE as an institution and the constitutionality of what has happened so far.
Mhm.
And Elon Musk is going to make the argument, you're going to listen here, that everything is transparent and there's no possible way that anything they're doing could be unconstitutional. But I want to hear your thoughts on this, and then we'll talk. Play it, Amy.
And we're very public about what we do.
Yeah, you put it on the website.
It's on the website. I don't know how we could be more transparent. Literally every action we do, small or large, we put on the doge.gov website, and we post on the X handle. And when people complain about it, and they say, "Oh, you're doing something unconstitutional," I'm like, "Well, which of these cost
You're doing
savings?"
it in the daylight. I mean, everyone knows exactly what you're doing.
Extreme transparency.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's been this transparent ever.
So 5 years ago, you were a hero to the left. You were cool. You had electric cars.
Yeah, not everything he's done is constitutional.
No. I don't think nothing he's done is transparent either, and not even a lot of what they're posting on that side is even true. They've miscounted numbers, they double counted things, they counted contracts that had already expired as kind of things that they've stopped. It took him, I think, 2 weeks before he actually, 2 weeks after the date he said he would put something up there. So that's not very transparent. So they're not doing. It's you have to in order. Here's the hard part for me, right? It's they're saying, "Oh, I'm cutting this, and we're saving this, and we're saving that," but you just have to, in order to believe that, you have to take him at his word.
Right.
Let's not trust the facts. Let's not trust actually what people are digging into and finding. Let's just kind of, let's just, okay, we'll take you at your word that yes, everything is on the up and up here.
Well, as much as someone like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, as much as someone like Elon Musk, his whole play is he's like, I'm the Silicon Valley expert and I'm the numbers guy and the numbers don't lie and we're going to throw all these things up here on this website and, every American can understand and see what's happening for themselves. There's a gold mine of ways you can lie with statistics. And beyond that, as you've mentioned earlier, there's a number of ways that the numbers that DOGE has put up have already been proven false. But even beyond that, talking about the constitutionality of all of this, there have been entire government agencies slashed and done away with. USAID is a great example of that. Essentially by the actions of someone who is an unelected bureaucrat, let alone a member of Congress who's passed something through a federal budget, which means that this is an abuse of executive power and an abuse of the taxpayer dollars that Americans have spent without any checks from other branches of government. Congress didn't pass any of these discretionary funding cuts, and the courts have not interpreted them to be valid. And you can challenge that, but again, a big reason and play for what Elon Musk and DOGE and ultimately the Trump administration is all about right now is saying that, well, we're the executive branch, we enforce the laws.
Yeah.
What's a court going to say to us?
Yeah, it is. This is very unethical what they're doing, and it's not constitutional. Look, when I was at the Department of Defense, they went through all my holdings, right? Stocks, bonds,
Sure.
Muni bonds, everything. And they told me what I could have and what I couldn't have. And it was pretty much anything within the top 100 defense contracts I couldn't own.
So they made you sell off your assets when you took the job.
I had to sell.
You couldn't even do a blind trust.
Correct.
Okay.
So we had to sell all these things off. And you had to do that, right? Because you were working in the administration and because you were a government employee. We still don't know if he's a government employee or not. They kind of say he's like a special assistant, but and they have another person that's listed as the DOGE administrator, but he's the one who's calling the shots, and they don't even kind of go around that, right? He's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what DOGE is doing, what he's doing. He's doing all this stuff, and he's admitting doing all this stuff, but he's supposedly not the person in charge. So, the thing right now, the most unethical thing, right, is if he can't be the CEO, if he's a government employee, and so they haven't made him officially a government employee, but if he were a real government employee, kind of doing the things that he's doing, he wouldn't be able to be the CEO of SpaceX. He wouldn't be allowed to be the CEO of Tesla and any other company that he owns, that he's the administrator getting paid by them. And the other thing is, that's worse too, right? Is that, okay, if you're not a government employee, if you're not doing this job and the title that you keep saying you are, but the administration somehow saying, oh, no, it's actually this woman who's kind of pulling the strings there.
So you're saying all of this is illegal?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So should
And
Elon Musk be in jail then?
Oh my God. Well, look, they would. The ethics thing. He's supposed to. If he's a government employee, he's supposed to file a form again, right? But the thing is, they haven't officially made him a government employee, and so if he isn't a government employee, he shouldn't be doing all this business with the government, kind of in there and the ins and outs, looking at information. I mean, he had a damn meeting with the NSA, the National Security Council. I mean, are we just letting him into secret information that he has no clearance for? It's nuts and it's crazy that they are doing this and they are giving him that much power.
Yeah. So we're gonna make you even more angry now. Let's play this next clip. And then we'll move on from Elon, as you probably want to. But later in this play, we're getting on the topic of why do we have this waste in the government that DOGE is supposed to go after, and why is the left so angry at what DOGE has done so far? Listen to his explanation.
You had space, and in 5 years you've gone.
I could go to a party in Hollywood and not get dirty looks.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
And
Now you might not even get invited.
I think
Still get invited, but I don't know if I should go.
And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say today, after Donald Trump, the left hates you more than any person on earth.
Yes, I appear to be number two. I mean, if you're judged by the various signs,
it's derangement. It's Trump derangement syndrome and Elon derangement syndrome.
Yes.
How is it that for you? That's a little bit of whiplash of going from being like Mr. Cool to the devil incarnate in just a couple of years. Is that kind of weird to experience that transformation?
Yes.
Why do they hate you so much?
Well, because we're clearly over the target. If DOGE was ineffective, if we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, I mean, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because DOGE is being effective, and DOGE is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage of. That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that DOGE is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. I mean, everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, small business administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay. This is the thing that why they really hit my guts and want me to die.
And do you think that's billions, hundreds of billions? What do you think the scale is of that?
Listen to his explanation.
Across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. So by using entitlements fraud, the Democrats have been able to attract and retain vast numbers of illegal immigrants.
And by voters.
And by voters, exactly.
All right, you can shut it off here. So he goes on to say that
Yeah.
the entire Democratic Party's electoral strategy is by letting illegal immigrants into the country, supporting them with government entitlement programs and federally funded NGOs, to the point where those voters and creating a path to citizenship that way, to the point where those voters are locked into the Democratic Party and become voters, and the cycle repeats itself as we get more illegals in, and they go on to say how we would eventually become a socialist state like California, so what Ted Cruz describes it.
Oh my God.
I can't think of a more self-righteous analysis of a party. Imagine thinking that the other side is so wrong and that their ideas are just so out of touch that the only way that they can survive electorally is by importing illegal immigrants to vote for them.
It's right-wing propaganda, and it's demented in the sense that it's not true, and we know the facts, right? There is very few, very small number of actual voter fraud that takes place here in the United States. And the last big case that I can think of was actually a Republican in North Carolina who committed the fraud, and they had to redo the election, which was unfair to the Democrat who would have won.
The biggest voter fraud was when Trump called Georgia's Secretary of State in 2020 after the election and said, "I need votes, find them for me."
Find them for
And
me.
credit to the Secretary of State of Georgia, he said no.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything clear of election meddling in that.
No. Yeah. And look, they don't have that proof, right? And there's no fraud of. And look, I'm not going to say nothing is ever perfect, right? I'm sure people abuse the system, but the fraud is not coming within. And look, if this was taking place, it's just all didn't happen in the last 4 years, right? If they're claiming what they said, I mean, maybe they think it did, but it was not. There are no illegal payments. Most undocumented immigrants are living in the shadows. They don't take government services. They don't even want to go to the hospital unless they absolutely have to, because they don't want to put a light on themselves to kind of get out there where they kind of risk the fact that they may get picked up or kind of be deported. And so to say that they're doing all this stuff, they're doing illegal activity, they're getting funding for businesses, they're taking advantage of all these things, that the Democrats are actually making payments to them to get them on the payroll so that they'll vote Democrats. This isn't the 19th century with the party boss system where they were kind of doing that. I guess the Irish immigrants who were coming in at the time.
That's what it feels like a little bit, but yeah.
But that's it's almost like they're reading a book of how that used to happen. And it's just not the case. It is not the case. And if it is, I want to see the proof. Show us the proof.